This is Matthew Grant with the Rogue Meteorology Rogue Report. We're going to take you through the storm that's coming through for January 12th. Sorry, that's February 12th. I've skipped a day. Um, yeah, pretty messy system moving in. Let's take a look at it here now. So, what I'm going to do is open Canadian Meteorology Center's regional map. I'm also going to open the American version, that's NAM. That's their high resolution, so I'll take a look at that. We're going to take a look at a couple of things, and what I thought that we'd do this week is I'll take you through how to write your own weather synopsis, or weather briefing, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to hit play on both these guys to get them started. So this is Météo Centre, Canadian and American models. I like to line these up. Oh, just a pixel off. Let's get that real perfect there. Oh, no, that actually is a pixel off. And mess that up. Alright, here we go. Okay, so let's take a look at the overall picture. So, starting from the beginning, here's Newfoundland. Here's the system moving in. It's basically going to take over eastern Newfoundland, really walloping the Avalon Peninsula. Really high snowfall, so we're looking at about 20 centimeters within the 3-hour period leading up to about noon Friday. Keep in mind that this is all Greenwich Mean Time, so the easiest way to think about that is subtracting 3 hours. So 9 a.m. to noon Thursday morning, we're going to get hit with, on average, a little less than 7 centimeters an hour, which is quite a bit. And in truth, that might actually be a little bit higher than that. Those high snowfall amounts continue through the evening. We're looking at 6 p.m., still hanging into the green, which is about 10 centimeters over a 3-hour period. Even though the dark shades of blue are hanging into early Friday morning, and as you can see, the isobars are still quite close together, so we're going to have some high winds as well. What's going to make things really difficult for Friday is any snow that's not cleared off the roads. If it's not done by Friday morning, and keep in mind the winds will still be high for a little while Friday morning, even after the snow is done, whatever's not cleared up by Friday afternoon will have to wait because the next system comes in. We're going to start seeing some snow from it starting around 3 p.m. Friday. So could make things for a really, really messy Friday. Now let's compare that to the American model. This is my first time looking at the 18Z. So the 18Z, you can click up here. These are the different models. So typically your 0Z and your 12Z are the most important. The 18Z is just, you can think of it as an update to the 12Z, and the 6Z is more of an update to the 0Z. So the 0Z and 12Z might be quite different, but you usually won't see a big difference between the 12Z and the 18Z. So let's put this in motion now, if my taskbar will let me. So we're looking at a similar idea. The storm hits, where are we? Thursday, where are we indeed? There we go, I started too late. So early Thursday morning, the storm hits St. John's, covers the east in a slightly different way than it did in the Canadian model. We were into yellow for the Canadian model, whereas the Americans only have us in the light green. So less snowfall in the American than there is for the Canadian, at least Thursday morning wise. And we'll take a look at the accumulated precipitations in a minute. So the same idea, some heavy precip. So we're going right through the snow shield. And the snow shield, keep in mind, air circulates counterclockwise around a low pressure system. So this air, the system is moving northward and northeastward might be a better way to say it. So northward would be this way for Newfoundland. Take a look at those lines of longitude there. So the storm's headed this way, which is kind of northeastward. So any winds wrapping this way would be kind of going the opposite direction that the storm is, and that gives air more time when you subtract the relative speed of the storm going northeastward and the air going southwestward. That gives that air extra hang time, I guess you could say, hanging over that particular region, and allows for more snowfall in that particular region. So we call that the snow shield, so you can kind of see it here, north of the system, northwest of the system, where it typically is. And that really slams over the Avalon Thursday morning, even into the afternoon a little bit. It dies out behind the low pressure system. Keep in mind, these really tight isobars mean we're going to be seeing high wind speeds right into Friday morning. Even if the snow isn't falling, that snow is going to be blowing around quite a bit. So I'm going to show you guys how to begin that weather synopsis. We'd say something like a low pressure system moves in from the south Thursday morning. And that system's going to bringing high winds and heavy snowfall. Okay, so that's our first sentence there, based on what we're seeing with this low pressure system in both the Canadian and American. Now, like we said, there's slight differences, but overall the idea is the same. Let's take a look at when it ends. So precipitation ends. Is that working for me? Snowfall ends Friday morning behind the system. So let's write that in. Snowfall ends Friday morning behind the system with high winds persisting. So the reason I know those high winds are persisting, these lines are really close together, so I know we're going to see some high winds. And of course, like we've done in the past, we're going to be looking at spot WX to give us some numerical data. And we should see exactly how high those winds are. And I'm sure they're going to be quite high. All right, so we've got the general gist. Well, let's take a look at Friday. So we've got a real tight ridge of high pressure between these two systems. So it's going to be kind of interesting if you're looking up to the sky. So we're looking at about noon Friday. The skies are going to clear out almost completely, probably. So you're going to have really blue skies, maybe some clouds to the north, east, and to the southwest. But you're going to have a streak of blue. And that's because if you've got air ascending in a low, and ascending over here in the low, that air's got to come down somewhere. What goes up must come down, I guess you can say. So it's got to come down in this tight ridge that's here between the two lows. So you have a very short period around noon Friday of really clear skies. That's going to be very short-lived, however, because Friday afternoon that next system moves right in. So 6 p.m. we're still getting increasing cloud at that point, no snowfall. Sorry, that's not 6 p.m., that's 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So 3 p.m. Newfoundland time, increasing cloud. And then shortly thereafter, we're going to have some snow development. Now let's just double check our precipitation types, because I know there is some ice pellets mixed in there. So the way to check that is you drop down this map to the precipitation types. That's the Canadian. And we'll do the same with the American precipitation types there. And as always, we've got to click play to get these maps started because they don't like to move through the slides if play isn't pressed. So we'll continue through the precipitation types. Thursday, as we expect, stop right there. It's snow up until Thursday evening, so 6 p.m. Thursday evening. We'll get brushed with this yellow, which is usually ice pellets, a little bit of ice pellets. So ice pellets are a little denser than your snowfall, so you can expect snowfall amounts to come down a little bit. However, you may have noticed as we were going through, this is a deepening system. Let's just take a look. It goes from 982, eventually down to 980, down to 979, 977, 975, 74, 71, 60s. So that's a deepening system. So typically you're going to get some more vertical ascent in that system, which is going to produce more precipitation. So practical upshot of that is to expect more snow than the models typically give you. So that we'll keep in mind. The ice pellets kind of bring down the snowfall total, so we're going to need to juggle that a bit when we make our final call. We'll keep that rattling around in our brains for now. So we're in snow except for a brief period of ice pellets. Oh, it looks like I see a little bit of red in there, so we might even have a little bit of freezing rain Thursday evening. Let's see what the American models say to that regard. Snowfall totals doing all right. Same idea. Thursday afternoon, evening, 6 p.m. We're looking at mixed precipitation. So ice pellets, freezing rain is what we're looking at. And that'll come back to snow early Friday morning. So similar idea. And then our Friday afternoon, Friday evening system comes in, and that'll be all snow. Okay, so what other maps do we have to look at? We look at precipitation type. What I would like to look at now is the 850 millibar temperatures. So why I'm looking at these charts is I want to see how cold it's getting in the upper atmosphere. The colder it is, the fluffier the snow gets, is the basic rule of thumb. So if we're getting into -10 territory on the 850 millibar maps, we can expect really fluffy snow. So -10, we've got the turquoise, I want to call it. I guess I need to go back to primary. Whatever this color blue is, second, and then we get into what I'll call real blue. So anything into the real blue color, then we can expect really, really fluffy snow. So let's give it a look here now. For the Avalon, we're in turquoise and that one between turquoise. As the system moves in, we don't really get to that darker blue. I actually was expecting we would, but we aren't getting to it. What you do see though is at the 850 millibar level, so this is higher up in the atmosphere, our precipitation is starting above zero. So that explains our ice pellets. Our snowfall is starting as raindrops because it's above zero, or at least it's falling through a upper layer that's above zero. So it'll be effectively rain at that level, but as it gets closer to the ground, the temperature is going to drop. And that could be freezing rain, as we saw, but it looks like the thickness of the layer closest to the Earth is so high and so cold that those drops will be frozen by the time they hit the ground, and that's what ice pellets are. So if that layer isn't quite as thick, it'll fall to the ground, but it won't get a chance to freeze completely, but it'll freeze while it's on the ground, and that's what we'll call freezing rain, because that's what it's called. And the American has almost the same idea. It doesn't have us quite going above zero at the 850 millibar level, just kind of skirting that line. So obviously there is room for error there. If that moves either bit westward, then we would definitely see ice pellets. So chances are we are going to be seeing some ice pellets tomorrow, which brings down our snowfall totals in the end. So let's again take a look back at our system. Low pressure system moves in from the south Thursday morning. Yep. Bring high winds and heavy snowfall. Yep. Snowfall ends Friday morning behind the system with high winds persisting. Good. Winds weaken late Friday morning. Let's say under a ridge between an exiting low and a new approaching system. Approaching system. Okay. Snow redevelops Friday, we could say late Friday afternoon with winds freshening under the new system. All right, let's throw some numbers in this synopsis we've got written. So what we'll need is to go to our good friends at Spot WX. And like I've always done in the past, we're going to go on the St. John's. So there's a couple of ways to do that. You can click Where Am I? Or if you want to drag that target to wherever you are in the world, it'll drag up some model data. I'll look at the low resolution American because I don't have access to the high resolution American. And I'll bring up the high resolution Canadian. Since our storm is within 48 hours, I can get all the data that I need from the high resolution. So if I was looking long term, I would look at the low resolution model, which is GEM Global for Canadian, GFS for the American. All right, here's our storm. So you can see our temperatures are starting below zero. By Thursday afternoon, they're getting very close to zero, but they still stay in the negatives, so still going to be fairly cold. Here, keep in mind, this knows what time zone we're in, the Spot WX. So whatever times are here are Newfoundland times. So we can expect the real snow of the storm to start shortly after 6 a.m. We'll have about 10 centimeters or so, 11 in fact. And then as people are getting ready for work, or would be if there is work in your case, snow's getting even more intense. Not only is the snowfall quite intense, 13 centimeters within a 3-hour period, so you're looking at more than 4 centimeters an hour, which is quite heavy. Wind is going to be quite high as well, so 50 kilometer an hour sustained winds, so likely you're gusting this into the 70s or 80s at that point. So visibility will be extremely low starting Thursday morning and really well into the afternoon. Even though the snowfall dies down, there will be a lot of snow on the ground, and there's still some snow falling. So we'll have continued reduced visibility into Thursday afternoon. You can see our jump to ice pellets here on the Canadian model for Thursday afternoon. Those won't blow around in the wind as much, and the wind does dip down, so visibility will become a little better Thursday evening. And then, as we saw before, our snow returns Friday morning behind the system. Keep in mind, we'll have northerly winds. You can see in our arrows here, so that's straight from the north. Northerly winds, of course, is going to bring cold temperatures. So we'll be back into full snow and not the ice pellets that we had Thursday evening. We will have had Thursday evening. and visibility will be reduced again, and of course the winds jump back up at that point. So really bad visibility Thursday evening into early Friday morning. Looking at Friday morning, the snow finally tapers off by 9 a.m. and the winds begin to die down, but keep in mind this is going to be 40 centimeters of snow on the ground at that point. So there's a lot of snow clearing to do. It's probably not going to get all done at once. It's just a huge amount of work to be done in a very short amount of time overnight. Well, during the day and overnight, I suppose. But still, it's an awful lot of work to do when you have wind blowing the snow back into the streets. The snow dies off early Friday morning. The winds also die down, but then, of course, we have that next system that rolls in. So snow begins Friday afternoon, and the winds pick up as well, so it starts blowing that snow around. So visibility gets reduced late Friday afternoon as well. So what do we have for numbers? We've got 40 centimeters of snow mixed with some ice pellets. What we have to be aware of is that's a deepening system, like I mentioned before. System, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the 850 millibar level. It's not going to tell us our mean surface level pressure. So 980, 979, 977, 975, 74, 71, and that gets down into the 60s. So that's a deepening system. So when we see stuff like 40 or 50 centimeters, you can expect higher than that. So we said by Thursday we're looking at 39, so definitely in the 40s. Let's take a look what the American low resolution says for us. So it's saying by Friday morning we're looking at 45 centimeters. So we're definitely looking at 40 to 50 centimeters by Thursday, and then with the additional about 10 centimeters Friday morning, we're going to be looking at close to 60 centimeters before the weekend starts. So let's throw those amounts in there. Winds weekend, we're going from a ridge. Let's throw that in there. Snowfall Thursday. We're looking at somewhere between 40 and 50 centimeters. And then Friday afternoon, 10 centimeters expected. And let's throw in a little warning at ice pellets. Now, ice pellets aren't as bad as freezing rain, but there is a potential for freezing rain, so let's mention that here. Front of the room, behind the front, cold weather persisting. Maybe we'll put that in before the Friday morning. Risk of freezing rain and ice pellets. All right, so we've got a pretty good looking forecast. We don't have our winds in yet. Like we said, they're going to be very high, so 50 kilometers sustained pretty much until Friday morning. We're getting down to 40s there. The American is saying something similar, 58. And we've got some gusts here with the American, gusts up to 84, which is pretty much what we were expecting. And similarly, winds die down Friday midday, and then pick right back up in the afternoon, back up into the high 40s, gusting to the 80s again. So let's write that in. Snowfall totals Thursday. Winds 50 kilometers an hour, gusting 80. Likewise, Friday afternoon. Winds 50 kilometers an hour, gusting 80. All right, so that's how you write a weather synopsis. I'm going to post this to Facebook, so you'll see that now shortly. that's our weather. It's going to be a really, really messy Thursday, and there's very good potential for a messy Friday as well. There's only a very narrow band of decent weather during midday where there's not snow falling and there's very little wind, but in the early afternoon, uh, snow starts falling and the winds pick up as well. So we're going to have another 10 centimeters, and that's going to be blowing around quite a bit as well. So be very careful. Thursday is basically a write-off. Friday afternoon is not looking very good as well. And Friday morning, depending on whether they get the roads cleared out in time, also is not looking very good. So generally, up until the weekend, we're not looking at very good weather at all. This is Matthew Rant signing off for Rogue Meteorology. If you've got any questions, shoot me a message on Rogue Meteorology on Facebook. And of course, the website is roguemeteorology.com. Thanks for watching.